Hi there, welcome to the third episode today of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is John Swinney having an absolute nightmare, right? Now this one will get you a laugh. John Swinney today at the SNP conference, which was half full, declared that they're going to win the next election, right? Well, he did, right? He really did, right? And I'm going to use the Sun as reference, although a few papers have picked up on this cracking joke. And this is probably the first time I've had a 10-minute moan with a wee bit of laugh for a while, because some of my material has been very morbid, knives and stuff like that. So if you've enjoyed some of the ones we've had previously, where we've had a right good laugh at the SNP together, sit down, get yourself comfortable, because this one's a cracker, right? So the headline in the Sun is Lame Game. John Swinney insists SNP will win next election to a half-empty room at the party conference. He insisted his ailing SNP could win in 2026 despite suffering the party's worst defeat since 2010 amid plummeting polls. And they're still plummeting, even after the election, right? John Swinney vowed he'd win the 2026 election yesterday as he was forced to make his SNP conference speech to a half-empty room. The Nats boss promised the ailing party would be back and unite our country to win our independence, as he blamed Westminster for financial woes laid at his door by budget watchdogs. There you go. So he's not going to just get his votes back, he's going to unite the country. You know, one of the most divided countries in the world. Probably most divided in my whole lifetime. But Mr Swinney, he's going to win us all back and get his independence area. Probably not tell us how he's going to do that, but he's just going to do it. So the cult will lap it up. They'll be in. Aye, Agnes, I was at that conference there in Edinburgh at the weekend. Oh, John Swinney, what a man. Oh, crap. He's going to get his independence, is your John. What? No, he never told us how he was going to get it. He just said he's going to get it right. So it's John. So just, like, listen up, right? Where did we get to? Nice wee picture of the half-empty room. I'll put that up on the screen. The First Minister also took a swipe at infighting in the party during his speech, urging NAT members to stop looking inwards and instead focus on priority for Scots. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, right? But see when they get absolutely slaughtered at the election, when they went for like loads of seats tonight, right? Did they not tell us they were having to look inwards and have a good look at themselves and, you know, see where we went wrong? That was July. This is the 1st of September. So we're not even 2 months in for that. We're going to have a good look at ourselves. And now it's stop looking inwards. Stop it, right? And focus your priorities in Scots. And he insisted his ailing SNP could win the 2026 despite suffering the party's worst defeat since 2010 and plummeting in the polls. But Mr Swinney insisted voters' independence is urgent and essential here and now. Aye, so that's John. Would lead to victory despite voters rejecting the SNP calls for a second independence referendum at the July general election. Remember that was going to be a de facto referendum, remember that? And if we get most of the seats, well, it used to be most of the votes. Then they went, that's quite hard, but let's just make it most of the seats because you could probably do that with nearly half the amount of votes. You could try to get it to half. And that'll give us a mandate for independence, right? Remember that? That was like 2 months ago. And they get 29.9% of the vote in 9 seats, right? So, no, we're not listening. And you're not listening. Okay? Because you told us that was the deal. You took it down. So why is independence still on the table? That's enough. Get me into Holyrood in 2026, right? Because I'll just sit there and go, no, you told us in 2024 it was a de facto referendum, remember? You wrote the rules. You never asked anybody if they wanted to agree to it. You just said, this is what we're doing, right? Well, you get smashed. So stop talking about independence. The mandate you got was for no independence. Okay? Thank you very much. Where did we get to? Critics blasted the First Minister for sticking to the same script and refusing to take responsibility for the SNP's record in government. Mr Swinney spent much of the speech blasting the Labour Party, attacking Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar and the UK government led by Keir Starmer. Wow, imagine that, because you've spent the last 14 years blaming the Tory one. Now, the Labour ones, for all their faults, they're rotten, right? They're really not very good. But you've been in government for 17 years. How can you blame somebody that's been in about 6 weeks, right? Just stop it, right? Accusing Labour of the most cynical breach of trust with voters, Mr Swinney said Labour hasn't delivered change. Labour is delivering the same damaging austerity as Tories. Now, on that austerity, Peter Smith, cracking journalist, ITV, good Scottish lad, recently had Mr Swinney in front of a camera. Now, why Mr Swinney would go in front of a camera with him, again, I never know, because every time Peter Smith gets a hold of him, he slaughters him, right? And he made a great point, because John Swinney came out with the same shite to Peter Smith, and Peter Smith says, well, hold on a minute, how can you call it austerity? That's when you do cut back on your spending. Labour's spending more than the Tories did. So it's a complete opposite for austerity. But see, austerity, it's like Islamophobia, it's like racism, it's like far right. Nobody really knows what it means, but if you say it, it means they're bad, right? So what Swinney's done is went austerity, and they've all went, he's right, at Labour. They're made of that austerity. These are a cult. You really are. Where do we get to? Targeting Mr Sarwar, he said, you might remember a moment during the election campaign when the Labour leader in Scotland said to me and the people of Scotland, read my lips, no austerity under Labour. Well, that kind of just ties in with what Peter Smith was saying. They're spending more. That isn't austerity. Austerity is when you spend less in public spending. That's what austerity means. John doesn't know what austerity means. Within a week, the councillor stood up and announced 22 billion of spending cuts. Well, he didn't really. He's just spending them on other stuff, right? So that's no cuts. That's like just moving dollars from there to there, and arguably he's going to be spending a wee bit more because they're going to tax his hunters, right? So they'll spend more. That's the complete opposite of austerity. You half-wit. Now, I don't like the cuts they're making, and I don't like the things they're spending more on, but it isn't called austerity. It's a buzzword. That is the politics of the most cynical and a total breach of trust with all those who supported Labour. Now, what's going to happen now for the next 2 years? Watch my lips, read my lips, listen to my words, and take this to the bank, right? The biggest threat to the SNP right now, and things can change, and hopefully they will, but right now, the biggest threat to the SNP at Holyrood is Labour, right? If you look at the results from the Scottish seats in the Westminster election. So he's going to spend 2 years telling us how terrible they are and do the scare politics. Now, I'm getting my fingers crossed, hoping something happens between now and May 2026 that means Labour's not their biggest threat. And it could be a number of things. So let's just leave that as it is. But until it's not Labour that's a big threat, you're going to get more of the same. It'll be how terrible Labour are. That's the team tune for the next 2 years you're getting off the SNP. Mark my words, listen to what I'm saying, and take that to the bank, right? That's exactly what we're going to do. Mr Swinney also turned his fire in Labour's record in government. Oh my God, within weeks. Now, shite, right? But you having 17 years of shite doesn't give you any scope to slaughter somebody that's been in a few weeks, right? Focusing on Chancellor Rachel Reeves' decision to axe the winter fuel payment for 10 million pensioners and rising energy bills. Now, this is an easy one. See if the Scottish Government still wanted to give the winter fuel payment to old people, you could still do it. You could. But you know what I tell us you could, because then you'd need to save in something else. And by the way, austerity, watch the cuts you have coming in the next 12 months, right? That'll be proper austerity. Because it's stuff you shouldn't have been spending in the first place, you absolute clanks. Before the election, Sir Keir told the Scottish Sun he would cut bills by £4,500 permanently by 2029 due to plans to invest billions. Well, that's 5 years up the road. It's quite good, that, because nobody can actually gauge you on it. But it didn't say the now. However, Ofgem announced the average energy bill will increase by £149 this year. Mr Swinney blasted Labour should be ashamed to show either of their two faces in Scotland ever again. That was a funny one there, John. That was a wee funny joke. See what you said there? Labour should be ashamed to show either of their two faces. That was a wee funny. Well done. Hope you get a wee round of applause for your half-empty room for that one. We were told we were better together, we were promised strong and stable, but instead in 2024 the Labour government tells us the United Kingdom is the worst economic state since World War II. So it falls on us, the National Party of Scotland, to awaken that sense of optimism and hope amongst our fellow Scots, to rekindle the imagination of our nation to show them that a better future is possible, to unite our country, to win our independence, that we have to do. Bet you banged your fists at that time, John. I could see you. But the First Minister urged SNP members to step up and deliver for Scotland in order to return to winning ways and avoid infighting. He said, "I don't want our party looking inwards," although that's what he told us 2 months ago we were to do. "I want us to look outwards, speaking with the people of Scotland, serving the people of Scotland, proving we are the party best able to take Scotland forward." However, Mr Swinney was also forced to admit that the party had failed to live up to its reputation as a modern election winning machine. Following on from the election post-mortem session on Friday, where the officials admitted they'd fallen behind, he told delegates, "All of you deserve the most professional, modern, dynamic, election-winning organisation." No, you don't. You're a cult. You deserve nothing. You don't even deserve a conference. Hear me when I say this. That is what I'm going to deliver so we win in 2026. Are you, John? Your party's skint. You'll be lucky if the administrators are no in before 2026, you raving lunatic. And after days of post-election recriminations, he said he would continue to push independence as urgent and essential. Well, the kind of voters told you they didn't want that, John. Remember you telling us? You bought into the thing that Nicola Sturgeon dreamt up. Hamza Yusuf changed the rules, and you followed up and went, aye, it's one of them de facto referendums. Scotland said no, mate, massively. 70% of people voted for other people, right? You said you wanted 50%, and that was it, right? Never happened, never near it. It's about people, prosperity, public services, and the planet. Staying true to our values amid Westminster austerity that isn't actually true. Mr Swinney set out his plans for government in Holyrood on Wednesday afternoon, but his speech included no policy announcements. And on Tuesday, MPs will first hear Finance Secretary Shona Robinson outline plans to cut around £60 million from frontline services. Is that no austerity, John? Is that no, like, you're going to cut frontline services, £600 million? That's austerity you have with. And she's expected to shift around £1 billion within the budget to target key areas in Mr Swinney's plan for government. There you are. However, the Scottish Fiscal Commission last week said much of the pressure in Holyrood ministers' spending comes from the Scottish Government's own decisions. The SFC said past choices of the Scottish Government narrow its room for manoeuvre now and in the future, citing such an inflation-busting public sector pay settlements and £1 billion of extra social security payments under the vowed powers. So you caused it. Ahead of this statement on Wednesday, Mr Swinney said the SNP will offer real change and blamed the Labour government in Westminster for forcing tough decisions on Scotland. He said, while we work with the UK government whenever we can continue to urge them to drop the damaging cuts and set new spending rules that support investment, even when faced with unprecedented budgetary constraints. Our aim will be to improve people's lives for focusing on clear priorities that make the biggest difference. But one minister told the Scottish Sun Mr Swinney's programme for government will be focused in the hope of avoiding another crushing defeat at the 2026 Holyrood election. He said the programme for government will be about what we can actually do in the next year. It has to be focused and deliverable, or we will be beat. There you go, folks. Well, John, lost the plot, absolute crackpot, and so austerity, that isn't really austerity, is bad, but we're about to cut £600 million from frontline services next week and move about £1 billion of other costs in the government. So you look good. You must think we are daft, right? In fact, the only people, I've said this before, the only people that still believe your nonsense are cult members. That you could tell them anything. You could actually give them a cup of tea, put a jobby in it, and tell them it's hot chocolate. And they'd go, cheers, John, lovely hot chocolate. Can I get some Scotty cream, please? Right? Because they're crackpots. See everybody else, they can see right through you. If you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and notification bell. But most importantly of all, Mr John Swinney, any of the SNP cult members that's still with them, or anybody that actually just falls for their nonsense. See everybody else, all the normal people. You all have a great day. Cheery bye now.